Jam a monocle in your eye socket, squeeze a beret onto your head. Today we're going to be enjoying the terrifying, strange and brilliant Doom creations of virtuoso Demos Remus, real name Nathan J. Anderson. Mr. Anderson is a Michigan-based illustrator with a greatly impressive client list: 20th Century Fox, Titan Books, Wizards of the Coast, Comedy Central, and so on. Now, these artworks are not hot off the press, as they've been around for some time, since 2017 to be precise, but as the old saying goes, art is like wine. The older it is, the gooder it is. Let's tuck in. First artwork, Former Humans. This triptych offers up a smorgasbord of visual goodness. The presentation, as with all of the artist's Doom work, is excessively clean, pared back, and centralized around the subject. Here we get to study the gormless faces of our former human foes as they stand resolute, alert, ready for action. I am especially appreciative of the environmental detailing in the surroundings and the subtle realism of the supplied ammunition worn by these grey-skinned wonders. The toxic barrel behind the shotgunner and the hinting of hexagonal architecture is all the background required in these images. We're almost treated to a stark white void, and yet we are not. Demos Remus works with an understated confidence that is sure to make you shake your head appreciatively while wearing a wry grin. A very delightful amuse-bouche. Next artwork, Revenants. Take some time to study the image, take it all in. Instantly I'm reminded of tarot deck artworks. This isolated figure with its abnormally long limbs and hollow expression appears to be floating as if, in its inactive state, it's a puppet of bone and steel kept rigid by hell magic, temporarily switched off, waiting for the arrival of its mortal prey. The presentation in front of a destroyed marble brick wall sporting the iconic devil face, spewing forth a gush of blood, is masterful. The Revenant could essentially be placed in any environment and you'd know what it is, but with this additional detail coupled with the silhouette of the large brown tree, you're knee-deep in the Doom, no question. Again, the presence of a realistic representation of ammunition draped over the skeleton's left shoulder adds a further layer of immersion. Whether it's a red sun or moon, it matters not. It instantly takes me to a scorching bushfire environment where the sun burns crimson from the smoke in the air, a very fitting sensory trigger for the depths of hell. Next artwork, Arachnotrons. So cute and yet so hideous. The hugeness of the empty sockets hint at a childlike physiology, which, if they sported their usual blue orbs, would give the player pause before tearing it apart in a mess of hydraulics and flesh. The bloody nasal cavity gives the impression that either a nose has been freshly sliced off, or this monster is perpetually oozing away. The absence of the creature's arms is notable. Usually an Arachnotron touches its temples to mentally command its plasma cannon to fire. With that in mind, such an absence is negligible and makes the beast appear even more helpless, were it not for its metal harness and threatening weapon rearing over its head like a striking cobra or a scorpion's tail. Curiously, this bears a strong resemblance to the Doom Eternal spider with the cannon overhead, and considering that this predates the game's release, I'd be interested to know if the game monster was inspired at all by this artwork. We are treated to a minimalistic wasteland backdrop, potentially somewhere on Earth where the spiders were first witnessed. A very intriguing artwork that raises many more questions than it answers. Next artwork, Barons of Hell. Cloaked in a robe of its own skin, the Barons, according to Demos Remus, act as religious figures and are the pinnacle of the demon hierarchy, save for the cyber demon and spider mastermind. Once again we are bathed in tarot imagery, this graceful figure rendered almost contrapposto in front of an altar, flanked by two burning evil eyes. It holds aloft a beating human heart, which references the obvious absence seen in its own open chest cavity, where its ribcage glows with an unholy green light. Demos Remus has really pulled out the stops here, the fleshy growth on top of the monster's head resembling a bishop's headwear, highlighting the Baron's place of great importance among the lesser demons. One thing's for sure, if you're getting your future told and you get this card in the deck, you're shit out of luck. Next artwork, Pain Elementals and Lost Souls. History has known its many great pairings, Lennon and McCartney, Hall and Oates, Mulder and Scully, but none come close to the unbreakable bond of Elementals and Lost Souls. A perversion of the idea of mother and child, these monstrosities are described as floating tumors that emit the smell of death and decay, this miasma potentially leading to countless deaths among the Earth population during the events of Doom 2. This reportedly docile creature only attacks when directly engaged, which has never been my experience, but when it does attack, it activates the infernal furnace in its stomach, which calls lost souls into being, flaming spirits that look like deformed children lost at birth. This accordingly calls into being the idea of spiritual warfare, the demons forcing Earth's defenses to destroy these evil creatures wearing the guise of undead babies, damaging the resolve and morale of those who have to engage them. The concept of spiritual degradation is visually cemented by the use of a destroyed cathedral in the background, its rose windows smashed in. Bearing a stronger resemblance to the Pain Elemental from Doom 64, more so than Doom 2, Deimos Remos has rendered for us a mass of flesh, entirely despisable and repulsive. Gone is the big boggly eye and rictus grin of the meatball you're likely used to. In its place floats this cancerous ball, its twin jaws champing constantly, countless oozing orifices dotting its surface. Yucky. Next artwork, Mancubi. This final piece is a real treat. Very close to the stumpy wide boy you'd think of when someone leaps out at you from a walk-in freezer shouting the word Mancubus. It's all there on show. The fat elephant legs with its splayed chunky toes, the big buffhead with its blood-smeared grin and tiny piggy eyes, and indeed its 4 breasts with accompanying nipples. The fact that this last element hints at the fact that the female of the species births potentially 4 of these tubby buggers is terrifying. Squeezing one out would be bad enough. The only obvious difference in form is the butchered arms that sport not so much flame cannons as flame throwers. Potentially they could spew the iconic distinct balls of fire depending on what fuel is sloshing about in those tanks, but most likely I would think these freakish monsters would be used in close combat, their weapons not having a huge amount of range. Once again we have a melancholic environment of what appears to be a destroyed church building, a ruined mess of twisted wood and stone, and dotted around its base, 3 very familiar heads on stakes. A cheeky reference to the Romero head icon of sin, off to the right. We also have a pair of decapitated Carmacks, both Adrian and John. This subtle smidge of tongue-in-cheek humour is hugely on brand for Doom, serving as a reminder to never take oneself, or indeed the game, too seriously. Once again, the glowing red sun, or moon, whichever it may be, hovers behind the rotund demon, indicating to the viewer that the celestial orb has been discoloured either by copious amounts of choking smoke in the atmosphere, very ominous, or by dark hell magic, even more ominous. I'll let you be the judge. These 6 monsters are indeed not even half of the creatures rendered by Deimos Remos. Check out his DeviantArt page to see the others. You won't regret it. I hope you've enjoyed this bit of artistic Doom navel gazing, and I shall see you in the next video. Bye-bye.